Rome wasn't built in a day, but it has been built only once, and for a long time. They have been building it for over 2,000 years now. Micro Rome takes much less to build, takes like 5 or 10 minutes, but you're likely to build it many times. Because you will need to do that before you master the game. It's not an easy game to master, and also it's a quite addictive game, so you're likely after you fail once to want to try again, and you fail again, and you try again, and you fail again, and you try again. You know how that works. Micro Rome is a free print and play game. It is a solitaire game that doesn't take too much space to play. Maybe not still an ideal game for, say, when you're flying on an airplane or on a train, because it doesn't take much space, but a little more that is often allotted in those conditions. It is a civilization game. You represent Rome, or the group of geopolitical influences and forces that led to the creation of Rome, but not really. You are just a dude or a gal sitting at a table and drawing tiles from a deck and placing them on the table. This is basically a puzzle game. You're drawing tiles and you're trying to figure out ways of placing them so that you will form certain combinations of icons to score you certain points, so certain amounts of points. It's a game that has a victory condition which is based on victory points. You need to score a certain amount of points to win the game, otherwise you lose the game. There's other ways of losing the game, but I don't think they are very likely to apply. So basically you lose the game if you don't score enough points. So pretty abstract. The civilization theme is somewhere in there, I would say, on the fringes of the design. Mainly it is an abstract game with a cute art and some clever mechanics. Mechanics which I'm going to describe in a second. The game revolves around this deck of double-sided tiles representing Romans of various kinds, barbarians, banners, and buildings. They're double-sided, I said. At the beginning of the game, you shuffle them together in a single deck. You do that under the table so that you do not see which card will be on top. And then you place this tile here, which is always the final tile, on top of the card, again, to cover the second to last card in the game, as the Colosseum will be the last card in the game. And you are pretty much ready to start. The only other thing that you need to do is to learn the instructions of the game. If you haven't done so, that's very important. These are the instructions. These are all the instructions. Luckily enough, they're not very long, because if you assemble the game the way it is supposed to be assembled from the PDF, the instructions will end up being on the back side of the starting tile in the game, the one that you place on the table to start the game, which means you will not be able to reference the rules during the gameplay, but the rules really are not that long. Now, during the game, you will draw cards from the bottom of the deck. Again, important, so you do not see the card that is on top. You draw cards from the bottom, which is why I usually just hold the deck in my hand. It's easier that way. And then you add the new card that you just drew to the tableau, to the group of cards that already are on the table. There are several rules to follow. You have to put them at 90, 180, 20, 270 or 0 degrees, which means you cannot do weird stuff. It has to be more or less at variations of the 90-degree thingies. You have to cover squares that are already on the tableau, and you have to cover at least 3 squares that were originally on the tableau. For example, this would be a legal placement. I cover 3 of those. This would not be, because I would only cover 2. When you place a new cards on the tableau, you also choose which side you want to place. And suppose that I decided to place this card right there, like that. Easy. There are some rules and limitations. These guys are barbarians, all of the other people are Romans. You can always cover a Roman with a new card, you can never cover a barbarian. Also, there are water areas, and also water you can never cover because, hey, water is important. However, buildings such as temples, fountains, marketplaces, or towers, you can cover as long as you cover the entire thing. You cannot leave half of it out and half covered, but if you cover the entire thing, then you're good. So you're simply placing new cards on the tableau, forming the tableau, and for all intents and purposes, building your little civilization, building Rome. I'm putting cards down in a kind of like a random fashion here. Even as I do so, and as I'm saying so, already thinking, yeah, but I'd like to do some strategy. That's not a good placement. Come on, come on. I'm just trying to exemplify the game, not to win the game here. So you will place cards on the table, on the tableau, making your tableau grow, more or less, the way you see here. These placements that I'm doing here, they're not particularly good placements, but at least they are legal, and that shows you how the game may look after a couple of rounds. And this is the basic idea of the game. You simply turn, add a new card to the tableau, making the tableau grow. You cannot place cards under previously placed cards, and you continue until all of your tiles have been placed on the board to form your personal micro-Rome. And this is the last card that is added to the tableau, to your Rome. After all, this is how, you know, you crown your jewel of the Rome that you're building. You crown it by placing the Colosseum in there. Once all the cards have formed the tableau, you score. You look at the scoring player aid. Is these two cards, you can attach them together like this, back to back, or you can simply keep them as two cards. You score for placing things in a certain way, in a certain order, or saying certain combinations. For example, these two Romans here, the guy and the woman, for each couple that you form, for each family of Romans that you form, of this guy and this lady here, you score 3 points. Each citizen can only score once this way, because that's the way it should be in families. You only do monogamous stuff. The senators score based on how many there are in a chain or a group. The total score is this one, 2, 0, 2, 6, or 12, based on whether there are one or more. So 4 will score me 12 points, 3 senators in a row in a group will score me 6 points, and so on and so forth. To score, the characters' icons need to be adjacent, orthogonally, not diagonally. Merchants, each merchant scores 2 points for every market he's adjacent to, like in that case. Barbarians, well, actually, for the Praetorians, each Praetorian scores a point if he's adjacent to a barbarian, and each Praetorian can only score once this way. Barbarians, if left unchecked, these people will lose you points. Each barbarian makes you lose 2 points if he's not adjacent to a guard tower or a Praetorian, and they may not be covered in any way. Banners, these simply score you a point each. Market is used for scoring merchants. Temples are really cool. They score you points for each unique Roman adjacent to it. So you're trying to create some diversity around your temple, different types of Romans. And depending on the number of Romans that you have, you score a different amount of points, up to a staggering, a wonderful amount of 15. But that is going to be pretty hard to pull, to get all 5 types of Romans around a single temple. If there's a barbarian adjacent to the temple, it scores 0 points, because that's a barbarian. The guard tower, each tower will score 1 point for each barbarian adjacent to it. So you definitely want to try to put barbarians and towers and Praetorians in combos, so that prevents a penalty and scores you points. The villa, each villa will double the scoring of an adjacent Roman. Each villa can only be scored once, and each scoring set of Romans can only use 1 villa, and fountains and water don't score you anything, but at least the fountain can be covered, the water cannot. So this is how it works. You simply create your tableau, you score using these instructions here, and at the end of the game, if you score 45 points or more, you have won the game. And if you are over 45, then of course the higher your score is, the better you have done. It's fun. It is a little puzzle game with surprising replay value due to the different orders in which the cards will come out of the deck, and simply due to the fact that certain times you will want to use certain sides. And if there are a lot of temples or not many temples, a lot of towers, not many towers, that changes things quite a bit. So actually the replay value here is really high, because depending on the first couple of cards that you get, you will probably want to go for different strategies. Some strategies do require some thinking ahead, some investment, some planning. If you're going for the senators that can score very high, you have to work in such a way that you'll be able to combine several cards. The same with the temples. The temples are really challenging. They score phenomenally, but it's really hard to pull off a temple with 4 or 5 unique Romans around it. The families, it's so cute when you put families together. So there are just many different ways. And you always have these barbarians, darn damn, these barbarians, that will force you to choose. Sometimes you will simply decide to accept the presence of a barbarian there because what the position of the card allows you to do otherwise still benefits you. Other times you realize that if you neglect taking care of those barbarians, they really will affect your score and pretty much nullify efforts that you may have successfully made in our parts of the experience. It's a simple puzzle game, but as I said in the introduction, it's pretty hard to master. Learn it, learn how to play it. It's like 2 minutes. I still had to win it. I played many times and I got close to winning, but not quite there. It's really tough. But it's fun. But it's fun. That's the most important thing. It's light, it's simple, it's free to print and play. You will find the files on BoardGameGeek. It has a nice civilization theme, which, well, not totally the main point of the design. It's not a deep immersion thematic experience. It's cute, it's fun, it's always nice to build Rome as if it hadn't been built already. In any case, the bottom line is Micro Rome is a fun, simple game that definitely is worth printing, making, and playing.